And here we are in New York with America's Mayor Live. Tonight, tonight, I'm really getting worried. You know, I look at the Biden administration now at this point, with the last week or two, as like a sinking ship. Now, the Lusitania was a beautiful ship and with really wonderful people who didn't deserve to die. So I don't hate to compare it to the Biden administration, except they don't deserve to die, and they're not going to die anyway. We're just using it as an analogy. You know that analogy? It's like shifting around the deck chairs on the deck of the Lusitania, like it'll get you nowhere, or on the Titanic, right? You know that expression? You've heard that, haven't you? It means doing something useless. Yeah. It's like switching around the deck chairs
on the Titanic.
On the Titanic. Yeah. It's going to go down. So what the heck's different? How about this? Because this is what's happening now with Hunter and Joe and the new indictment and the inquiry and all the evidence that's coming in and all the evidence I know that's behind it. You know, pretty soon they're going to start. Pretty soon, one of these networks would only have to be OAN, Fox, or Newsmax is going to start a little calculator. How much have we proven they've stolen and taken in bribes? Ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. You know, 3.5 million Moscow. Ka-ching. You know, 8.2 Ukraine first payment. Bing, ka-ching, ka-ching. Yeah, and then we'll you know, we may start a little gambling, but for prizes, not money. What's it going to end up at? Now, I can guarantee you a couple of things. Election night won't be counted fairly. In other words, the Bidens will have taken a lot more money than the press will acknowledge. Probably at least double. But since I have a lot of the inside records, I can tell the ones that they're not counting. So I'm going to give you a head start. If nobody else can get them there, by the time it's finished and I'm ready to put out everything, I get to 50 million. I get to 50 million. I'm pretty much sure, but I'm not double counting anything they have when I say that. Now, that includes their money and mine. And I think I may be shortchanging because I could be off on a few. I know I can get to 50 million that went to the Biden crime family. Now, everyone is very confused as to whether Joe got any money. That's because everyone is very stupid. Smart people aren't confused. You know who aren't confused? People who can read. If you weren't subjected to the deterioration in the New York City school system occasioned by the Communist Teachers Union, you're able to read. And you even understand things like, well, not nowadays, because instead of teaching this, they teach you to get confused about your gender. That is, you also learned how to add. So if you could do both of those, you could go to December 25th, 2018 in the hard drive, and you know how they're all asking this question? Well, there's no proof that Joe Biden got anything. There's no evidence that Joe Biden got anything. There's no evidence that Joe Biden got anything. Oh, there isn't? Well, there's the text on December 25th, 2018, that tells you, would you be happy with a percentage? Joe Biden got half of all the money that Hunter Biden collected. Giuliani, how do you know that? You're making that up. No. Hunter Biden emailed it to his daughter on Christmas Day 2018, along with the fact that he took care of all the family expenses for 30 years. What do you say? That's not evidence. Okay. It's not evidence, huh? What is evidence? Evidence is a fact. It tends to prove or tends to set up the possibility of guilt. So receiving that kind of money from your son, which is highly unusual, that a son would give half his money to his father, and that he would make him pay half of the expenses for 30 years, particularly since we also added to the fact that his son was collecting millions and millions of dollars for no reason at all, would be known not only as evidence, but as admissible evidence, as an admission. It's admissible under the hearsay rules. So when all of these phonies tell you there's no evidence, there is evidence. There's damning evidence. What I just told you is a smoking gun. I prosecuted many RICO cases. I rarely had a RICO case that laid out the contractual division of money the way this does. Now, could he be lying? Yes. Does that make it not evidence? No. Evidence is not proof. If they want to say you haven't proven that Joe Biden got the money, they could say that because we haven't had a trial. But to say there's no evidence that Joe Biden got the money is a big, usual, typical, criminal lie by a party that has become, at the very top, completely corrupt. You want more evidence? Okay, I'll give you more evidence. Just going to kind of foot around in my memory. Oh, I could take you back to February of 2016 when a communique arrived at the prosecutor's office before the guy who Biden fired was thrown out. Communique was a finding by the Latvian government. A certain group of people had engaged in illegal money laundering. That involved all the Burisma people, several very, very important European politicians, Hunter, Devon, their company, which included John Kerry's son, and a guy named Joe Biden, where there's a little note, 800,000. Now, is that true? Looks like it, but I don't know. Is it evidence? Of course it is. You see, evidence isn't proof. Evidence is the building blocks from which you arrive at the truth. Do you know how many there are in this case? Oh, maybe 1,000. Every time these idiot morons tell you there's no evidence, I feel like I could take a garbage pail and bury them in it. Just throw it on them, like that Goldman guy. That would really get him because he grew up as a very privileged Manhattan rich kid. And man, you put a garbage can on him, he'd get really upset. Garbage can, garbage can. Ooh, I never had to touch my garbage can.
I think he also dumped $2 million of his own money into his own campaign, and that's how he got elected. So he basically elected himself.
Well, at least it wasn't 100 million like Bloomberg.
That's true. Yeah. For 2 votes.
What?
For 2 votes for the presidential campaign you're talking about.
Presidential campaign?
Yeah, I'm talking about Bloomberg.
No, Bloomberg for the presidential campaign put in $1 billion.
Oh my! Oh, you're talking about his mayoral campaign.
100 million.
100 million.
3 times.
Jesus Christ.
3 times. He could take care of he could take care of the Adam. He loves Adams so much. He should have saved it to take care of the Adams migrants.
Because they're cutting the
budget. You know what Bloomberg could really do? Big for the city. He could take all the migrants. He's got about 5 or 6 mansions. He could take just 2 mansions. I don't know. I think in fairness, well, no, I would say you'd have to go in the southern climates because the people, but nowadays they come from all over. So he could have one in the north and one in the south. And he could take a whole big area, put up beautiful, beautiful housing for them, take care of them forever. And who knows, and then they could be in the workfare program that I could reestablish. I don't know if he did away with the workfare program in de Blasio, but one of them did. One of the dumbest things a mayor ever did, so I'm not going to say which one until I find out. But one of them did away with the workfare program. I get, yeah, and that's why they don't have people coming up to them like I do, saying, "Thank God for it, you helped me." I mean, I put thousands of people through that program. So we got an indictment now. The indictment is a piece of silliness, pure silliness. No, I shouldn't say that. It's an indictment that had to be done because it is a serious crime. Why do I call it silliness? I call it silliness because when you look at the darn thing, it's like pathetic compared to the Trump indictments. I mean, Trump's indictment is like 92 pages, 114 pages, 72 pages. This is it. When they said indictment, I thought I'd spend all afternoon having to read it like I did with the Trump indictment and have to get out my law books. And I got out I got a law for dummies for this one.
May I answer your question from before about the workfare program? Yeah. It was Dumb Blasio who got rid of it. Yeah. It wasn't Bloomberg. Just to clarify for everybody.
I apologize, Mike. Here, let me get it in order. See, I had the pages mixed up. I probably read it backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 4 pages. Oh, wow. It's got 4 pages. Look at this. This is what you do when I'm going to tell you what when you do this. You do this when you got the crime so tight you don't really have to put in anything. And they have it. I mean, this guy's like, just plead guilty, dummy. Or when you don't have when you don't have a crime and you got to fake people out thinking you have a crime, you write 90 pages. Because this is all you have to do to charge a crime. See what I got right here? This is it. This charges 3 big felonies. Covers about 40, 50 years. Right here. That's all you got to do. If you don't want to prejudice someone, if you don't want to put out all kinds of nasty, mean facts about them that gets the jury to get angry at them like they did to Trump, if you don't want to lie your tail off, if you don't want to make things up because you have no crime. I mean, you finished that last one by Fanny, and you end up reading a novel about how people are complaining about an election. And they got lawyers. Oh, my God, they got lawyers. And the lawyers actually argued for them in courts and in the legislatures. And the lawyers said that their clients were right. And the lawyers said that the governor was wrong. Governor said, you cannot say it was a stolen election. New York Times said, you're not American if you say it's a stolen election. Wall Street Journal said, if you're an election denier, you're a traitor. You can't have that opinion in my country. Well, exactly what country is that? Russia? Nazi Germany? Of course I can have that opinion. Particularly if I talked to a couple hundred people who told me they were cheating. Then I can have that opinion. You didn't bother to do that. Okay, because you stop the truth by cutting off the hearings. You stop the truth by censoring it on television. You stop the truth by intimidating people from saying it, by calling them all kinds of names if they do. That's how you find the truth. My goodness, if you had stopped me at the very beginning, we wouldn't know any of this. You know that you don't know any of this about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. Not a single thing. Not that much. Based on your work as reporters. You didn't dig out this crime of Hunter Biden's that's being prosecuted now, did you? It's a lot of years old that it went on. It was well known. Who brought this out? Me. Only me. You wouldn't know about Joe Biden if it wasn't for me. Oh, you'd know about Joe Biden. We'd have like a complete, mythical, corrupt, communist-inspired lie about this senile old man. And he'd walk off into the sunset, having made anywhere from 50 to 100 million, stolen from the American people. And you wouldn't know a damn thing about it. and I'd still be practicing law
Wait, Mayor, you mean to tell me
or being sued by anybody.
this wasn't Russian collusion?
No, I escaped that one good, didn't I?
You did.
I escaped that one good.
Oh, yes, you did.
You know, it was pretty. And also, you got to understand, it was really tough for me to collude with the Russian shit since I don't speak Russian.
Right.
I also don't like them. This is a guy who grew up in an anti-communist family. I switched political parties because I didn't think the Democrats were tough enough on the communists. And I worked for Ronald Reagan very gladly and helped to establish the FISA court and wrote out warrants so we could search and videotape and audio tape and tap the telephone calls of Russian spies. So yeah, I'm a big Russian fan. No, that was a crime. The whole thing, the whole Russian collusion allegation, that was a crime masterminded by Hillary, well known to Obama and Biden, Brennan and Clapper, aided clearly by the lying of Jim Comey, numerous FBI agents, by money contributed by others to help her, none of whom have even been investigated for it, much less put in jail, whereas Trump's been indicted 4 times for things that people are still trying to figure out what the crime is. The one I just outlined for you, that indictment writes itself. You paid a crooked intelligence agent, an agency, $1.1 million to produce a false report in order to frame a man for a crime he didn't commit. A pretty simple. That one you could indict like that. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, we don't need a big long bullshit sheet. But when we're lying, when first we practice to deceive, oh boy, what were we going to say here? Oh, I got a really interesting thing about these charges now. So what does this charge? This is the gun charge. This is the charge that should have been brought down like 2 months after he was arrested. This an indictment like this, we used to put a time limit on. And I'm looking at this, right? Probably when I was the U.S. attorney, the boss, in the best U.S. attorney's office in the world, and maybe the best U.S. attorney's office in history, given what it produced, I'd give this 3 months. If my assistant couldn't get this done in 3 months, it'd go on a list and I'd be after him. Because I kept a list of indictments, and because of speedy trial. Indictments, why not? Indictments, why not? 2.5 years, if Weiss took 2.5 years with this, he would not only not be the U.S. attorney, he wouldn't be an assistant U.S. attorney. I would tell him very nicely to go find go write wills. You're not meant for criminal law, pal. So this is straightforward as hell. He walked into a store on October 12th, 2018, in Delaware, and he purchased a .38 revolver. Here are all the serial numbers. There are two different false statement crimes he committed. They really merge into one. Basically, he lied when he was asked, has he ever been an unlawful user of or addicted to any illegal drug? Answer is yes, all my life. I mean, yeah, three days in the last 30 years I haven't been. But it's about right if you look at the if you look at the hard drive. Answer: no, lie, violation 18 U.S.C. sections 922, 924. The second count is a similar one, except a different version of it. This is on a different form, on Form 4473. He made the statement that he was not an unlawful user of and addicted to any stimulant, narcotic, and any other controlled substance, when in fact, as he knew, that statement was false. That's 18 U.S.C. 924, A1A. Now, that one is really, really strong because there are pictures of him before and after, within days, smoking crack. And then we want to do aggravated offense, why he shouldn't not be given leniency of any kind. because he's seen any number of times driving automobiles while smoking crack, putting in danger the lives of children and anyone else. That'd be a good reason why he should have aggravating factors applied to his sentence, and therefore he should go to jail for more than just the average person who commits this crime. He also should go to jail more than the average person because he's not an occasional user of drugs. He is what I would regard, or we used to call it, a degenerate drug user. His life is consumed by drugs. I don't know how many times he's been into rehabilitation. If I guessed 15, it would be a lot. That's the number of times it didn't work. The chances that he's free of drugs now are none. And the final one is the most serious of all. It's a 10-year felony. This is the one where they're going to treat him like a juvenile and let him have no conviction if he was a good boy. This was the real stinkeroo and the fix that the old man put in for him. This is knowing that he was an unlawful user and addicted to any stimulant, narcotic drug, and any other controlled substance, did knowingly possess a firearm. That is so it is a crime for a person who knows they're a drug addict, however they acquired it, to carry a gun. Now, who made these laws? Liberals. What are they called? Gun control laws. Who's the biggest advocate? Joe Biden. Does he want them toughened? Yes. Has he, during the course of his career, voted for amendments to strengthen these statutes? Yes. And does he think these are critical to things like mass murders? Yes. At every mass murder, what is the first thing he says before he says, "I'm sorry"? Because he's not really sorry. We know that. This is the guy who looks at his watch when he's there with 13 people, 13 families whose children he just killed in Afghanistan. He goes like this. When am I going to get out of here with all these boring people? They can't do much for me. When am I going to get out of here with these boring people? Maybe I could get my ice cream. My ice cream. I have time for my ice cream. I wonder if Jill will have somebody help me with the ice cream, because sometimes I can't get it in my face because I'm so freaking senile. Then he tells them a very soothing story to really help them. He says, "I know what you're feeling. I know what you're feeling." Because Joe's been through everything, which is the sign of a pathological narcissist, by the way. "I know what you're feeling. My son died on the battlefield." Well, they all know his story. They look at him and say, "You effing liar." You know, one of these guys actually has said in if he weren't the vice president, the Secret Service one there, I would have decked him. You realize the pain that causes for people? You make up a lie about your own. You want to equate your suffering with theirs, and you make up a lie about it? What the hell is wrong with him? You know what's wrong with him. I know you're going to tell me he's senile. No, I'm going to tell you he's evil. This is an evil man. Man doesn't steal this kind of money from China and Russia, countries like that. Take money from them. He's not evil. That carries 10 years. So they're going to say, "Oh, I heard," someone even said it on television today, almost took their head off. They said, "Oh, he's a first offender." Not under this statute, he's not. We're talking about a guy using drugs, right? This guy was tossed out of the military for using drugs. He's no first offender. We've been in trouble for drugs before. He had a big fat warning. And this statute, the penalties here, should logically go up the more serious a drug user you are, because the more serious a drug user you are, the more irresponsible possessor of a weapon you are. Does that make sense? Even for you people whose ability to do Greek logic or Aristotelian logic is blocked by, that's one of the things that happens when you have Trump derangement syndrome. It goes to a little synapse in the brain. You can't reason any longer. See if we can get through that synapse. If there's a statute that makes it a crime for 10 years for a drug addict to be carrying around a gun, wouldn't you give the higher sentence to the person who has been a drug addict longer and more serious drug addict? Because wouldn't that one be the more dangerous one? Yes. Unless there were other extraneous circumstances, like he's already been thrown out of the army for drug use. Or, he drives an automobile as a drug user. He doesn't only endanger people by carrying a gun around, but he endangers people by driving an automobile. We know he occasionally 170 miles an hour. I don't know if he did it when he was high on crack, but we do know he drives high on crack. This is a guy who should get the book thrown at him. Let's see what happens when the Bidens get to fix that one too, because we do not have a system of justice in this country. And if you think we do, you're a naive person that needs to listen to this show so you can be educated as to the country you live in, so you can fix it and we can get back to where we used to be. A democracy in which this guy should be sentenced based on the crime that he committed, not on being Joe Biden's son. He shouldn't get any worse, shouldn't get any less. So far, he's gotten everything. He's been under investigation for serious crimes for 5 years and not touched. Not only that, a number of the crimes, his crooked prosecutor, Weiss, has let the statute of limitations run on, the most serious tax offenses. Now, you want to know why I know this guy's Weiss is crooked? First of all, I can smell crooked prosecutors. Like that, just like that. When this jackass said, I had to go to the U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia to get approval. He wouldn't approve it. I had to go to the U.S. attorney in California. He wouldn't approve it. So Mr. Lying Weiss heard the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, on television say that he, Weiss, had superpower to indict anywhere he wanted. Unless he's a little mouse, don't you call Merrick Garland and say, Mr. Attorney General, you said I have the power to indict anywhere I want. And I just went to talk to your flunky in Washington and your flunky in California, and they wouldn't indict. So now I can do it, right? Wrong. That call never took place. So who's lying here? Attorney General, who said that twice under oath, Merrick Garland? Is he committing perjury? Did he not give him the power to indict anywhere? Would seem to me if he did, Weiss would have gone back to him, or is Weiss lying? He never went back to him. Well, here's what's really strange. It sounds like maybe, just maybe, Garland is lying. Because Garland didn't have to make him a special whatever he is if he already had the power to indict in any district, because that's the only additional power that he gets. There was no reason to do this thing he did a couple of weeks ago and make him special counsel if he had already given him the power. Sounds like maybe he just said it because he tends to lie a lot. So it's easier to lie than to tell the truth. And if you're with Biden, what else are you going to do? That's all he does. So my betting is that Garland lied. Otherwise, there was no point in making him special, whatever the hell he is. Even though he doesn't fit the criteria, you're supposed to have somebody from out of the Justice Department, which makes him a conflicted special prosecutor, and you get a special prosecutor or a special counsel to avoid conflict. But in Garland's case, he's not really an attorney general. He's a high-level apparatchik of the Biden regime, and he picked a guy with a gigantic conflict who also seems to not get his story straight. So you ask yourself, why do we go through all this if he indicted? He indicted in Delaware. Look at the indictment. It says Delaware. Now, for that one, he didn't need the guy in California. He didn't need the guy in the District of Columbia. He didn't even need big old lying Garland. In fact, maybe because he's so guilty, He had somebody else sign the indictment. Derek E. Hines signed it for him. Gee, you can't even sign your own indictments? What do you think we got here? Crook or wimp?
Probably both.
Well, he sure can't get a story straight. He better not try this case or Hunter. Maybe he should. Maybe that's the real deal here. They made a deal, and the deal was he's going to try the case, and it's going to go nowhere. So we are now going to take a short break. And when one or two other charges Hunter faces. The Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Okay. So I want you now, as I'm doing this, whoever gets it will get a jelly bean. I want somebody to come up, and I'm not gonna tell anybody why until we do the story, which I'm doing in a minute or two. I want you to come up with a picture, a nice picture we can show of a very famous mafia don named Vincent Gigante.
Got it already.
Vincent was the brother of Father Gigante, believe it or not. And but Vincent was a killer, stone cold killer in the Genovese crime family. And Vincent, you're all going to remember, Vincent used to walk around the village where he lived the few times he wasn't in prison, just with a robe on, so that in case he was prosecuted or arrested, he would claim insanity.
Staten Island, was it?
No. In the village, Greenwich Village. I want to get a good picture of the robe.
Got you right here, Mayor.
Because when we start our store, we may be selling Gigante robes. But I have a special picture to put on the Gigante robes. Now, Joe Biden is now organizing his defenses. He's organizing his defenses, but not the way an honest person would. Kind of the way combination of a crooked politician who fixes things and a mafia don who has a RICO crime family, which he has. So first we have the diktat. You know what the diktat is? That's when diktat. This diktat was sent to all of his co-conspirators, the press. Memo to editorial leadership, otherwise known as he could really just shorten his TED to Memo to Pravda, which was the news organization of the Soviet Union. They had it in one group, so they didn't send out as many memos. But he sent out to all of his criminal co-conspirators, namely the New York Times, the Washington Post, all the networks. I seriously doubt he sent one of these to Fox or OAN or certainly to Newsmax. We didn't receive one, did we? Memo to editorial leadership. We're the editorial leadership of America's Mayor Live. We didn't receive one, which means we're not part of the We're not part of the censorship. Well, no, we do this like in 1984. We're not part of the Ministry of Truth. We're not part of the Ministry of Truth. I don't know who the commissar is that runs this. Oh, the commissar who runs this has a very strange name. His name is Ian Sams.
You know what they say about never trust someone with two first names.
He's known as the Baghdad Bob of the Biden regime. He is the Minister of Truth, Ian Sams. Ian sent out, here's the shortened version of the memo to editorial leadership at U.S. news media organizations. It basically says, don't print a damn thing about this. There's simply no evidence that Joe Biden did anything wrong.
He needs to watch your show, Mayor.
Once again, if he wanted to write, there's no proof. He'd be wrong. There is. But at least he'd have a leg to stand on. This is what constitutes evidence. The 3,000 or 4,000 bank records, the 27 shell companies, the numerous SEC complaints, the 178 special action reports, which almost always involve a money laundering crime, about 90% do. The IRS whistleblowers who testified under oath, like you never have, Joe. The FBI informant files and some of the high-level files that are deemed and certified as credible by the FBI, those are of sufficient evidentiary value. They could be used to get a search warrant. Emails that have been verified that you spent years lying about. Texts that have been verified that you have spent years lying about, including defaming me by claiming I was a Russian pawn. WhatsApp messages that have been verified. Photos of your father with all of the foreign bums, criminals that you said he never was with. You know, some of those people are organized criminals and suspected murderers your old man was with. That's who he belongs with. Speakerphone calls, recorded conversations, like Joe, when you stupidly left the message making it clear that you knew all about his Chinese business, even though you were going around saying that you didn't know anything about his Chinese business. Oh, by the way, I count about 35 false exculpatory statements. Oh, you failed out of law school, really. And you did a phony plagiarized paper to get back in and sucked up to the dean and his wife. Know the whole story? Because I know you're one of your classmates. You don't know your classmate right before he introduced me to you, told me you were the dumbest guy in his law school class and cheated your way through law school. That's how I've always known you. So this is a bit of a surprise, but it's not as if I'm, you know, half the time I talk to you, I would walk out scratching my head saying, what the hell did he say? And you're much worse now, by the way. All of those speakerphone calls are evidence. But the one where you call them up and tell them you read the New York Times and you're in the clear, that's Joe wouldn't know this because, as I said, he failed out of law school, really. But that's evidence, Mr. Ian Sams. The Air Force 2 travel logs. All the aliases used in every criminal trial as evidence of guilt. Admissible as evidence of guilt. What the hell do you think we put them in the indictments for as AKA? That's called evidence. That's the evidence that doesn't exist. The two meetings at Cafe Milano with people that were making enormous amount of money, having bought your influence, including people who have dangerous criminal backgrounds.
Let's remind, should we play one of the voicemails real quick, Mayor? We have the one, Joe to Hunter, telling him he's in the clear.
Okay, so this This is, you're going to say, well, this doesn't prove he's guilty. Doesn't prove. It's one fact that can be used with other facts that together can prove he's guilty. And it happens to be an extraordinarily important one because, remember, this contradicts his statement. I didn't know anything about his foreign dealings because the article he's talking about is all about his foreign dealings. So this is a very, very powerful piece of evidence. It's known as a false exculpatory statement. You don't want me to get too technical, but I could get out the criminal code now, and I could read to you what a judge is required to tell a jury about this. Judge is required to tell a jury that if you find this statement to be false and a false exculpatory statement, on this evidence alone, you can find criminal intent. You don't need anything else. This alone, you can find criminal intent. That is the law in the federal courts. When I had a false exculpatory statement, I had you by that, and I always got you.
Let's play the tape.
Hey, pal, it's Dad. It's 8:15 on Wednesday night. If you get a chance, give me a call. Nothing urgent. Just want to talk to you. I thought the article, at least the thing online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think it's clear. And anyway, if you get a chance, give me a call. I love you.
Even the language of kind of like the mafia, right? You're in the clear. You're in the clear. You're dealing with all those Chinese communists. Can you imagine first of all, a vice president being that calm? Let's assume there was nothing criminal going on, but he was doing business with Chinese communists.
Should we play it one more time? It's pretty short. Let's play it one more time. It's quite unbelievable.
By the way, if I don't think the next defense will work because he sounds pretty clear-headed here. Let's go.
Hey, pal, it's Dad. It's 8:15 on Wednesday night. If you get a chance, give me a call. Nothing urgent. Just want to talk to you. I thought the article, at least the thing online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think it's clear. And anyway, if you get a chance, give me a call. I love you.
So, just for the benefit of Ian Sams, that's called evidence, Ian. That's the evidence that you say doesn't exist. Only one of about 1,000. Only one of about 1,000 pieces. You know what this reminds me of? You'll not remember it. I will. I appeared on a Sunday morning on Stephanopoulos' show right after Biden announced, and Stephanopoulos showed me this memo that Biden had sent around to the press telling them not to put me on television. I thought, my God, this is going to really backfire on him. Here I am, the number one spokesman for Trump, and I probably was on television as much or more than anyone in 16, and I was very heavily sought after by the press because I would engage with them. And all of a sudden, he tells them, don't have him on. This is because I was so terrible that I really screwed things up for Trump, and he didn't want Trump to get in trouble. Or do you think maybe it was because every time I went on, I used to knock the little bum out? Because it's not hard, because he does stupid things like that. You know why he gets away with it? Because the press is corrupt. If I'm boxing someone, I'm beating the living daylights out of him, but the refs are fixing a fight, I'm going to lose the fight. Doesn't matter. The refs are fixing this fight.
Mayor, is there a chance that the Biden White House is jumping the shark here? Is there a chance that, look, as a former journalist and someone who even to this day works a lot with reporters, and maybe more importantly with editors, there's one thing they don't like, right? They don't like being told what to write. They don't like being felt like they're being told, even if they are in bed with the Democrats, right? They don't like being told.
Oh, yeah. I was watching before. There's a big revolution going on television. CNN, MSNBC, ABC, they all turned against Trump, against Biden. Yeah, go dream. Like hell. Go dream. Just go dream. Go dream. Telling the media to go on an all-out attack against the House GOP impeachment inquiry. more telling still, the press largely failed to even complain at the impropriety of the presidential orders on what to cover and how. Parade of CNN anchors, analysts, reporters, they got their word for the day. You know what it was today? No evidence, 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 no evidence. No evidence, no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. Or like it was quid pro quo, quid pro quo, quid pro quo, quid pro quo, until it turned out that the quid pro quo was Biden and not Trump. And then it was quid pro quo doesn't matter, quid pro quo doesn't matter, quid pro quo doesn't matter, quid pro quo doesn't matter. They are a conspiracy of like-minded anti-American communists or enablers of communists who are trying to who have already destroyed our criminal justice system and made it entirely unjust, have done everything they can to the First Amendment. I mean, I get a letter today saying I can't even express my opinion about that video in Atlanta when I tell you to look at it and see if you agree with me. It has been forever that under the law of libel, you're allowed to express an opinion. You don't even have to be in a country that has a First Amendment. You can't express an opinion. We're not America anymore. Question is, are we America anymore? Then we got the other one, which is the Joe is starting to maybe do something smarter than we all think. The New York Post came up with this one, and I disagree and agree with the New York Post. Let me read it to you so I give full credit where credit is due, because I think there's a chance this may be true. The president wandered around in India and Vietnam during the recent G20 in various states of befuddlement and lucidity. We've become used to the yo-yoing grip on reality of our elderly commander-in-chief. You wonder sometimes if the president's waxing and waning cognitive abilities are something more than just medication or sundowning. He can be lucid when he wants to be. Could it be that we're seeing the outlines of the old bathrobe defense that mob boss Vincent Gigante used to get the feds off his back, notice, in the 60s, not when I was around. Vinny the Chin, a.k.a. the Odd Father, and Joe has an a.k.a. now, right? We know that. He used to wander around Greenwich Village in a bathing robe, mumbling and pretending to be crazy. Maybe when the jig is finally up on a lifetime of Biden bribery, old Joe will be diagnosed with dementia. What do you think? You think this is, there he is. You see the chin? I wonder if Joe has a robe like that. Maybe we'll get one, put a little Joe thing on it, and walk around with that in front of demonstrations and stuff. I mean, would he have such a little self-respect that he would do that? Yes.
I think this would be a better picture of you could be the guy in the white hair walking Joe Biden. That would be a better one for your T-shirt.
This one here?
Yeah. I think that's a good marketing one. You could be the guy walking Joe Biden. Because
well, this is a little. No, I also will say. Biden is president. We do need a more dignified robe. This does look better. Can you show this?
Yeah,
Can you show this to everyone? The higher end Gigante Biden robe. I don't want to be the guy in the white there. He looks like a gangster.
Yeah, those are two gangsters right there.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Maybe he's a nice Italian man helping another Italian man.
And here I am being anti-Italian, right?
Yeah.
I'm just assuming every Italian's in the mafia.
Well, I mean, he's holding the arm of Vincent the Chin Gigante walking down the street in a clearly post shop mayor. Chances are this guy knows a thing or two about what the chin is up to. I don't know. That's just me.
This reminds me when I got Joe Bonanno out of St. Mary's Hospital at 4 a.m. in Atlanta, and he said, "I want my slippers. I want my slippers." And the marshal goes back, gets his slippers, and here are your effing slippers. boom, and he put. Nobody ever treated this guy that way.
Oh,
These guys were treated like you've seen The Godfather. You know, like when The Godfather wants to get up, he goes like this. I get up. I don't go like this. He goes like that, or if, you know, he'll give you.
or if he's done with you,
He'll give you your drink and he'll go.
Yeah. All right,
These guys are all like that.
quick handshake, quick that.
We got along really well when I treated them like the shit they were.
Oh, I'm sure they love that, Mayor.
That's why they took a vote on whether to kill me or not.
But they never did it.
But Chinny didn't vote at that time because he wasn't a Don. In fact, Tony Salerno only went to prison because Chin Gigani acted like he was crazy. And when Gigani's turn came up to be the head of the family, they brought Fat Tony back from retirement because they didn't want Chin to be head of the family because they weren't sure whether he was crazy or not. He used to act like he was crazy. And therefore, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time when we did the commission case.
Probably was a little crazy.
It would have been the Chin. I can't imagine that Margaret, Fat Tony's wife, didn't have him hit, but she didn't.
Was there any strategic purpose to the nicknaming of mafia figures, either by the media or by the members themselves, or law enforcement, or not really? When you watch, I watch a lot of news clips, especially since I've been with the mayor from like the 80s and 90s, right? And all these news clips, Mayor, from a lot of local New York news, you know. Jimmy Two Eyes, you know,
Yeah,
was in jail today, or
they
two
used to be-
fish or half fish.
They used to be sarcastic correct or sarcastic contradictory.
Okay.
Like some guy could be called Slim. And he could be like Fat Tony.
He's a big guy.
Or he could be slim and he really is slim.
Yeah.
Or Fat Tony, you know, was called Fat Tony because it just as easily been called Slim. Then there were guys they didn't like and they had special names for them. Like Carmine Persico gave himself his own nickname, Junior.
Oh, snake.
But the real nickname that everybody around the back is that I would call him the Snake.
Oh,
You called him the Snake. You didn't call Carmine the Snake to his face. Of course, we had it in the indictment. So I watched his face when it was red.
What? Somebody had
Carmine,
what about the one?
Carmine Persico,
Well, people don't.
AKA Junior, AKA the Snake.
Yeah. Oh, he was
But when we
good
do
at
Joe's, it'll be good, huh? Joseph what's it? Joseph
Robinette?
Robinino?
Rob.
Rababoopy? Rabadapi-doo-boop. Robinette.
I'm not doing that.
Joseph
I'm not
Robinette.
Italian. I'm not.
We'll call Joe Biden Joe the Genius.
Joey the Genius.
Joey the Genius.
Yeah.
Joey the Genius. Man, how's that? How's that?
That won't get on. I know how to get
You
him.
like that?
That's funny.
But you're not supposed to make up AKAs, but we got some real ones. Maybe we could throw one in. Joseph Robinette Biden, AKA the old man, AKA LJ Pierce or something.
Peters.
Oh, yeah,
Robert Peters.
Robert Peters.
But LJ Pierce too.
Yeah.
AKA LJ Pierce, AKA Chin Jr.
The Chin Junior.
Chin Jr.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's a good one. And how about this boy in class? Because I believe all of the pathology begins with the fact that from the day he showed up in class, he was the dumbest kid in class. He is still the dumbest kid in class. Gates captured it when Gates said he was never right about any part of foreign policy. You don't write that about somebody. How can he, first of all, I don't even believe that's true. How can he be wrong about every decision on foreign policy? That's what Gates says.
Man, we're actually doing disservice to Vinny the Chin because Vinny the Chin just acted dumb. He was actually really smart. Joe Biden is just dumb. He's not acting. This is like for real.
I have no doubt that he had a higher IQ.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've listened to Vinny on tape,
right.
and I know Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Vinny's working, at several levels above the
So
intellectual
we're actually
operating
insulting the late
level of the
Vincent-
moron.
Vincent- Vinny
Then
the
the
Chin.
final strategy comes from that fair and impartial journalist, David Ignatius, who must have been born prejudiced. He had Trump derangement syndrome before it ever really existed. And you know how they always wanted to find out who was the first COVID 1? so they could trace the disease. David Ignatius could be Trump derangement syndrome 1 when it goes into the BDS 5.
Patient 0.
Yeah, patient 0?
Yeah, that's it.
That
Patient
could be
0,
David
TDS.
Ignatius.
Yeah.
Well, David Ignatius thinks that Biden should not run. Not because he hasn't been a great president, but because he's too old. But he doesn't really devote any time to what he was a great president about. But he'll come up with a bunch of lies.
Yeah.
He's done it before. And then
It's gonna take some time.
the
with this
very, very deep thinker and intellectual Joe Scarborough
one. Oh yeah.
says that he shouldn't run. And Mika went,
Panhandle Joe.
Mika made some little noise that's been interpreted as yes. Oh, no, he spoke for her. He said, Mika and I
Whoa.
believe he shouldn't run. And she went, there's a discernible, he says, Mika and I, and she goes,
Yeah. And the MSNBC
which is
audience
what he
thinks,
allowed her,
yeah.
which is what he allowed her
I
to
thought
do.
liberals would never tell a woman what
Exactly.
to think or what to do.
His audience
Yeah,
just
that's
had a collective gasp when he said that.
very Republican. Interesting. Yeah, it's very conservative of Joe Scarborough.
That's not very woke of Joe
No,
Scarborough.
They
no.
forgot about that.
He's
Mika
telling a
and
woman
I.
what to think.
They're panicking.
No good. No good. Not very liberal of him.
But what did they say, Mayor?
Mika and I, everybody we talk to, everybody,
Oh.
Everybody we talked to.
every political discussion,
How?
all it talks a lot about Trump. But when it comes to Joe Biden, people say, man, he's too old to run, isn't he? Too old to run? You know what they're saying. He's stunad. He's stunad. You got no brains. The brains are gone. They went out the ears. Boof. Baboof, out the ears.
It does make sense, even if Biden's planning to leave, Mayor, right? It would make sense that he wouldn't announce it until the last possible
He
minute.
won't announce it until the last possible minute. He will do the pardon at the last possible minute. And I'm going to make a prediction right now. He pardons the wrong person.
He's gonna. That is quite
He
something, Mayor.
signs
You're
the
right.
wrong document.
He's gonna do it. He's gonna get the wrong.
You know what's
people.
going to happen? Hunter's going to be standing right there.
Time's gonna run out. Yeah, get Dad, Pops. It's gotta be this one. You know, midnight's coming, or is it?
Hey,
noon?
moron! Come here!
Yeah.
No! Bob, no! Bob!
Then he's no longer president.
I
He forgot to
really
sign it.
always hated you know that? You see some of the memos?
The
They're
dysfunction
true.
comes out.
Let's get
When
our
I said
QUX here.
Uncle James loved me more than you, I meant it.
Let's get our QUX commercial in, Mayor.
All right, but meanwhile, I'm gonna be well. They
set
do
up
that.
for that.
Let me have my.
Do that now?
I want my.
set that up
I
while
want to
we,
have my
Yeah,
heart of nature. I want my heart of nature.
Run QU.
The year is 2022. Cancel culture is the new normal. Online freedom as we know it has ended. Digital stockades are here. All activity is monitored, stored, and predictively analyzed by a technological cartel. We're being converted into a digital resource, a digital currency to be farmed for metadata and loaded into a computerized combine, blockchained to a social engineering operating system. However, it doesn't have to be this way. Be part of a new technological revolution. Right now, 1,000 test pilots have launched themselves into a new digital frontier, a private network outside of big tech control. New technology with state-of-the-art digital engagement and never-done-before security and privacy features that are now operational. With Quick's digital engagement, entertainment, communication, and commercial exchange will never be the same. We are QUX. Quicks. Advanced pre-release sales are limited to 3,000. Order now by visiting Quicks.tv. Get yours now before they sell out. Be part of a brand new online experience that you control.
It's time. It is time for our balance of nature, veggies, and our fruit. Every day, you should have a significant amount of fruit and vegetables. It is probably the best thing you can eat. The more, the merrier. The more probiotics you have, the more chance you have of developing more significant immunities, the better chance you have of avoiding the common cold. I go on and on and on. And also, in addition to the health benefits, which are manifold, you have more energy. If you take 2 of each a day, or I would prefer 4 of each a day, you'll have the energy I have. If you take 6 a day, you'll have the energy Trump has. I'm taking an extra fruit today. Good. You're doing 3 for me today? So this will be 5. This is good. That'll be 5. You know, Rob took out the ingredients the other day and ate them.
Yes.
And he said, so tell us, Rob, what they taste like.
The fruit one tastes like raspberry or something very berryish, right? And then the green one was very commonly green, and it had a hint of garlic in it as well.
Ooh, Italiano.
Yeah.
A little garlic. Ooh. You know what garlic?
Like a plate of spaghetti.
You know the idea with garlic, right?
Rob's the kind of guy who probably sniffed glue when he was in elementary school.
Absolutely.
Oh, stop that garlic and slipping good. Later on, when we're off the air, I'm going to ask if the garlic had any reaction later on at night. A lot of it, that's an old Italian myth, maybe. I don't know.
I'm just a guy from Michigan. Fill me in here.
But if you're from Michigan, you won't be able to handle it. So we're going to see what we can make, what we can get in quickly in the things that people aren't going to tell you about. We already talked about Ian Sams, who's the Minister of Truth, who's going to make sure that nobody writes anything about the Biden indictment or the Hunter Biden case, or the Biden impeachment, rather, or Hunter Biden case. Nobody will be allowed to do that. They're working on, we don't have the final edit yet on this, but they're working on the appropriate robe for Joe the Chin. We had a discussion last night, and, you know, McCarthy's in a tough place here. Everybody acts like he can just say impeachment. He's got to get a majority vote. He's got Republicans who are in districts that were carried heavily by Biden. If he wants to hold the House, those people have to win again. Now, knows yet, because this hasn't played out the way, let's say, Watergate did, how those people are going to react. So you may be sacrificing those seats. You may. Second, those members, and I don't think McCarthy's the kind of guy that's going to squeeze your arm too hard for a vote. He'll squeeze your arm, but I don't think he's not an old timer. So those guys are going to be, everybody's going to see it as a disloyalty to the party. But there's a practical political part to why there be some resistance to voting for an indictment right now. When I say indictment, impeachment right now. Now let's stop all the garbage about evidence and so. Impeachments have nothing to do with evidence. They have nothing to do. If I thought they had to do with evidence, Trump would have been impeached and convicted. They have to do with politics. It has to do with public opinion. The way and the reason why Donald Trump was never convicted was not because he was not guilty. He was not guilty. He'd have been convicted anyway. They don't give a damn. He was convicted. He was not convicted because the public didn't want him convicted. And it would have been political suicide for them to get to that 2/3 vote that they needed. A lot of those people who voted would never be returned to the Senate in their lives, like Mr. Romney. How many are left, actually? How many are left? I don't know. Out of the people who voted against him, maybe one or two, and the worst one is on his way out. I mean, if he ran for re-election, he'd be thrown out of the state of Utah, even though he's a Mormon and all this. Particularly now, those impeachments were phony from day one. Now they look totally phony. The first one on the phone call to Ukraine about a crime that we now have on record that they were denying. Of course, the president has to call the president of the country, has to investigate crime at the highest levels of two governments, involving, on our part, somewhere approaching 8 to 20 million, and on their part, maybe 100 million. He would be derelict in his duties if he didn't. Now, that was his defense. It didn't help in the House. He won in the Senate. Had he had the hard drive, and he was able to prove that, beyond any doubt, even the House, the dumb House, would have dropped it, because the public would have gone crazy if they did it. So you ask yourself, why did Barr hide it and let the president get impeached when he was his attorney general? And what do they have on Barr? Because he spent a year being a phony. He spent a year making believe he was going to investigate the allegations that involved some of the biggest crimes in American history. He didn't, and he just lied to everybody. He had a woman in Ukraine that was ready to give up offshore bank accounts. They left her stranded. Bobulinski stranded. When he says he investigated the stolen election, he did not. He specifically told certain U.S. attorneys not to. I have no theory on what went wrong with Barr. I have no theory on what it is. I have one theory. It's extraordinary. They got something on him. I don't see a man withholding exculpatory evidence with all capital letters on anyone who's an attorney general unless there's something seriously wrong. And we don't know what's seriously wrong. So it could be anything. So, when you hear him tomorrow, once again, repeat, because liberals are they're not really smart. They get a little thing like they got no evidence yesterday. So Dan Goldman comes out, the rich boy from Manhattan, and he says, no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. No evidence, no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. Then you see Scarborough, no evidence, 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 no evidence. No evidence, no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. Well, here's some of the evidence. Okay, I just put it up here. You won't be able to see it all, but here, maybe we could take all these down over here. It's just right here. I'll just look at it. I don't think you can see it. So we have the what I call the Christmas tape, and that's the one. That's the one where it says 50% of my income goes to Pop for 30 years. Boys and girls of the jury, when they tell you there's no evidence, that is the quintessential definition of evidence. It's a fact. It's a fact that tends to help the general proposition that a crime was committed. It doesn't necessarily prove the entire crime. If it proves the entire crime, that's called proof, not evidence. And usually it is not one piece of evidence that proves the entire crime, unless you have an unequivocal tape recording or a confession, but a confession can always be a lie. So that's enough. Text. Then we have audio tapes, like the audio tape that Ted played for you, where he told his son, the way gangsters do, don't worry, we're in the clear. Now, that's more important than just for in the clear, because it is, and it's much more important than just a videotape because it's his false exculpatory statement. It's probably the biggest and the clearest. It's one of about 10, all of which at the end of a trial of Joe Biden will get a charge to the jury saying you can use that to prove his guilty knowledge and intent. This is why Comey lied to you when he said there was no evidence of intent on the part of Hillary Clinton because she had 5 false exculpatory statements. I hired that criminal, and he was a good trial lawyer. He knew that. He knew he was lying when he said there was no evidence of intent. There was classical, defined, probably the 5th chapter in your evidence book, evidence of intent. And it's in this case, it's multitudinous. Then you have, of course, the 10% for the big guy, with internal memos describing Joe as the big guy, and the testimony of Bob Belinsky and James Gilliers describing him as the big guy. So you have 3 internal texts in which he's described as the big guy. In other contexts, give your dad give the big guy, your dad, my best wishes. There's one of those in 2012. Then there's another one saying, and this is about a memo on a foreign, this is another piece of damning evidence. There's just so much of it, it's ridiculous. It's a memo from one of the partners to, I think, Hunter, that says, I sent the deal along to the big guy to check it out. Those are the deals that Joe knew nothing about.
Comical. It's like a comedy.
That's called evidence. That is an admission by a co-conspirator. Someday I'll bring out the evidence. We can see them. If you really feel it necessary to refute these pigs, I will bring out an evidence textbook and show you, or bring out the model rules of evidence and show you where it is. And then, of course, there's Bob Belinsky, whose testimony was unreal about about Joe being directly involved in getting money from the Chinese communists.
You should put no evidence. You should put no evidence in quotes, right? Because that's them saying no evidence.
Then there's the straight Latvian case, which was only 800 grand, but 800 grand, 800 grand. And then there's a memo from their friendly Chinese communists setting up an office for their co-conspirators, the Bidens. And the first 2 keys in the office requested are for Joe and for Jill Biden. Isn't that nice, having the Chinese communists get an office for you? Think maybe that kind of shows, along with big guy, that you're in business with them? No. Actually, they go around America and they offer everyone offices. You don't have to do anything for it. You just sit in the office. I don't know, if you order Chinese food once a week, it's okay. That's all they're doing it for. So Joe actually would get Chinese food twice a week because he didn't want to be, and that was what he did in return for the probably 50 million he got from China. They say 30, I say 50, you'll see. He probably ordered Chinese food. Or they actually, I think what they wanted? They wanted expert advice on crack cocaine from Hunter. That was the reason for paying the family $30 million. One of the things you don't find much of are things that we have in business when we actually, we call them invoices. Like, I just built a house for you. Here's $3.5 million from the crookedest lady in Moscow, and it's because I just built a house for you. No, it's because I just gave you a wonderful idea that resulted in a big profit. No, I just gave you $3.5 million. The only conceivable reason I would give it to you, degenerate drug addict, is because your father is the vice president and we need his influence. Tell me the other reason I would give it to you. That I'm stupid, I'm a stupid oligarch? The fact that they have sold a bill of goods to so many Americans is scary.
Yes.
It's scary about the intellectual level and intellectual acuity of our country. let's hope we can overcome it now. We're beginning to. But it's at the point where, and the only reason I'll take a little off that criticism is, it is horrible when you don't get the right information. And then when they say it often enough, it just becomes believable.
For decades.
Like, they'll say, Shokin was corrupt, Shokin was corrupt, Shokin was corrupt. Now, it is taken getting all the files out of Ukraine, the EU, no evidence of corruption at all. That's just a complete lie repeated over and over and over again. Or, I never talked to my son about his foreign dealings. Repeated for 20 years. Now proven 30 different ways to be a complete lie. And if your son's foreign dealings were on the up and up, why wouldn't you talk to him about it? Of course you'd talk to him. You'd be proud of it. If my son did great deals that were honest and that were not conflicted with foreign countries, and I would be very proud of him. I wouldn't say, I'm not going to talk to him about it. and also, this also made no sense, but because our modern press has become, by virtue of the Trump derangement syndrome, stupid. Do you realize how stupid it is that the way you're going to deal with the ethics of a conflict is your son is not going to tell you who he's doing business with? So he could be doing business with our biggest enemy, with the biggest conflict in the world, and you wouldn't know about it.
Security concerns?
What you basically have done is to say, I don't care if you have a conflict, because you're not going to tell me about anything. I mean, it's totally crazy to not be told who he's doing business with, because he could be doing business with somebody that you have to make a very critical decision about. I can't imagine a judge having a rule like that, or if they do, then we got a lot more crooked judges than I ever thought. In order to make a decision about a conflict, you've got to know the business that's involved. And do they have anything to do with your official duties, or don't they? And is there a real conflict, in which case you have to get out? And then there's also a concept of appearance. Is it too much of an appearance of conflict? And I would say any family of a very high-level American official whose people in the first and second degree of sanguinity are doing business with the Chinese and Russian governments, it's a conflict. It's a conflict because the Chinese and Russian governments are not doing business with them for good reason, because they are totally, completely dishonest, dishonorable, and homicidal maniacs. Right? Okay. Well, we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll have plenty more as we try to deconstruct and get to you the information that you don't get from the whole group that got the memo today that they're not supposed to publish anything that hurts the Bidens in order to, complete their obligations to whatever name they're going to give to the new Communist Party. Thank you. Good night, and God bless America. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it.